from within the family to out in society, from the workplace to the place of spiritual study. Wherever there are people, there is praise, there is blame, there is love, there is hate, there is right, and there is wrong. Gossip and judgment thou fire like the winds of life. They blow everywhere, sparing no one, stopping for no one. There are people who, because of a single sentence, lose their appetite and sleep. There are people who, because of a word of criticism, fall into despair. Then there are those who, because of being misunderstood just once, carry sadness for many years. But if we look closely, the wind is just wind. Only when our mind is shaken does the wind become a storm in our heart. A person who knows how to practice spirituality does not seek to block the wind, but learns how to make their mind as steady as a mountain. The Buddha taught that a wise person is like a high mountain. The wind cannot shake it. The mountain cannot stop the wind, but the wind cannot topple the mountain. A person studying the way is the same. You cannot make the world run out of gossip, but you can make your mind stop wavering in the face of gossip. Many Buddhists often complain, saying, "I live kindly, so why do people still speak ill of me? Or I haven't done anything wrong. Why do others still hate me?" That question is not new, but it is the suffering of so many people, because human beings naturally fear being misunderstood, fear being criticized, and fear losing their image. They keep getting swept up in the winds of life without realizing it. Sometimes we try to live so that everyone is pleased, speak so that everyone likes it, and act so that everyone praises us. But the more we try to please the world, the more tired we become, and the further we drift from ourselves, because the human heart is impermanent. Today they love, tomorrow they hate. Today they praise, tomorrow they criticize. If our mind relies on praise and blame to live, then that mind is no different from a leaf in the wind, always being swept away. The Buddha once taught that in this world there are 8 winds that make humans drift: gain, loss, praise, blame, pleasure, pain, fame, and disrepute. Anyone who is not awake will be spun around ceaselessly by these 8 winds. A wise person does not try to avoid the wind, but practices so that the mind is not swept away by the wind. Gossip actually doesn't make us suffer. It is the mind clinging to gossip that makes us suffer. When people speak ill of us, those words are just sound. If we listen and then let go, it vanishes like wind blowing through the forest. But if we keep it in our heart, analyze it, get angry, and hold a grudge, then our own mind has turned that sound into a knife stabbing into us. Buddhists studying the way should remember that the words of others do not have the power to hurt us, unless we ourselves allow them to do so. If the mind is weak, light words become wounds. If the mind is strong, big waves become a gentle breeze. When we understand this, we no longer fear people's words, but only worrying that our own mind is not yet bright enough, not yet kind enough, not yet steady enough before the changes. The longer a person practices, the more they must see that the root of suffering is not outside, but inside. When the mind still clings, we are easily hurt. When the mind still wants to compete, we easily suffer because of words. When the mind still demands that others understand us, we will remain constantly uneasy, because if the world understands us even partially, that is already lucky. To want them to understand our whole heart is impossible. Buddhists living in the world must practice looking deeper, see that the person speaking evil is a person who is suffering. See that the person scolding is a person lacking wisdom. When we understand this, compassion immediately arises, and anger no longer arises. The speaker is not scary. It is only scary when our heart is not bright enough to see that they are also lost in ignorance. When the mind generates kindness, criticism immediately dissolves. When the mind generates compassion, resentment immediately is extinguished. Practicing is not to make the world run out of gossip, but to make the heart not suffer because of gossip. Because the winds of life do not stop, but our mind can stop. Stopping is not hiding, but stopping the reaction, stopping the wandering thoughts, stopping the competition. When we can stop, naturally we find we can let go. Let go of things that don't need to be kept. Let go of words not worth worrying about. Let go even of unnecessary anger. When we have let go, the mind is as light as a cloud, as peaceful as an autumn lake with rippling waves. At that time, gossip still exists, but it is just like a breeze passing the ear. People can speak, but we are no longer swept along. That is the wisdom of a practitioner. In life, everyone hopes for peace and stability, but usually goes looking for it on the outside. Some think that when everyone understands them, they will be at peace. Some believe that when everyone loves them, they will be happy. But in reality, peace does not come from everyone being good to us, but from us knowing how to be good to ourselves, knowing how to keep the mind pure, knowing how to live kindly, knowing how to listen without reacting hastily, knowing how to smile in the face of praise and blame. When the mind is bright enough, every word of gossip becomes a lesson. When the mind is peaceful enough, every adversity becomes an opportunity to practice. A true Buddhist is not afraid of being misunderstood, only afraid of losing their own kind heart. The Buddha taught that a wise person sees all things as the wind blowing past. Do not hold on. Do not resist, just let it pass. If we can live like that, the heart will be incredibly light. The person scolding us today, they appreciate us tomorrow. The person praising us today, they criticize us tomorrow. Everything changes. Only a calm mind is a true refuge. When the mind is calm, the surroundings are peaceful. When the mind is agitated, the surroundings are chaotic. Therefore, if you want to end suffering, it is not about making the world silent, but making the heart silent. A wise person does not worry about fixing other people's words, but worries about fixing their own mind. When the wind of gossip rises, Buddhists should remember one thing. No one causes us to suffer. If our heart does not create waves, the wind can only blow on the water's surface. It cannot shake the bottom of the lake. If our mind is as steady as a mountain, then no matter how noisy life is, the heart remains as peaceful as before. That is the path of the practitioner, the path of mindfulness in the midst of ordinary life, living in the marketplace of life, hearing all sorts of praise and blame, but still keeping a gentle smile. That is practice. Working amidst many things that go against one's will, but still keeping the mind bright. That is the way. Walking through all the noise, but still keeping the silence in the heart. That is wisdom. Gossip is the wind. A kind heart is the mountain. The mountain does not fear the wind because it knows the wind is just the natural operation of life. Buddhists learning the way are the same. Do not fear the words of the world. Do not avoid the people of the world, but practice to keep the mind kind, the mind bright, the mind steady. When the heart is kind, evil words cannot touch it. When the heart is bright, darkness cannot cover it. When the heart is steady, The waves of life cannot sweep it away. A kind person needs no proof. A bright person needs no argument. They just need to live true to the way, and the gossip will dissolve on its own. If after listening to this point you feel your heart is a little lighter, realizing that the winds of life essentially cannot stop, and only your own mind needs to be at peace, then that is already a small but precious step in practice. I respectfully invite Buddhists to share your feelings in the comments section below. Perhaps your words might help someone who is suffering to feel a bit of relief. And if you find this lecture brings benefits, please joyfully press subscribe to the channel so we can spread the light of the Dharma together, sow more good seeds, and increase merit for ourselves and others. Humans often think that their suffering comes from the outside, from the words people speak, from the attitude of others, from the misunderstanding or criticism they receive. But if we look deeper, we will see that the root of suffering does not lie in people's words, but in our own clinging mind. The Buddha once taught that when a person throws a stone into a lake, if the water is muddy, the stone will stir up mud. If the water is clear, the stone sinks, while the water's surface remains calm. The words of the world are the same, only when our mind is still muddied by ego, self-love, and desire can words stir us up. If the mind is clear, people's words are just the sound of a passing breeze. Therefore, a wise person does not try to cover their ears against gossip, but learns how to listen with a clear mind, to hear without suffering, to understand without anger. Many Buddhists may have experienced such as seeing. Just one unintentional sentence from someone makes the heart heavy for days. Just a slight criticism makes one feel hurt, feeling looked down upon, feeling lowered. Actually, those emotions are not created by the other person, but by the ego within us reacting. The ego wants to be loved, wants to be recognized, wants others to praise it. So when someone touches it, it immediately fights back. It is like an unhealed wound. Just a light touch hurts, but when the wound has healed, even a touch doesn't matter. A person with a bright mind, a heart without attachment, finds that the heavy and light words of the world no longer have destructive power, because they know words are just sound, and sound inherently carries no true substance. It can only hurt us when we give it power, and that power comes from the clinging mind. The Buddha taught that when someone speaks ill or criticizes, they are sticking out their karma, not sowing karma for us. If we do not accept it, it is like someone bringing a gift to give. If we do not accept it, that gift still belongs to the giver. Evil words are the same. If we do not receive them, do not hold them, those words dissolve in the wind. But if we take them in, analyze them, remember them, and then resent them, then karma has been sown into our mind. There is an old story that tells of a person who came to curse the Buddha with very heavy words. When that person finished scolding, the Buddha only asked, "If you offer a gift and I do not accept it, to whom does that gift belong?" The other person replied, "It belongs to me." The Buddha smiled, "Just so you bring evil words. If I do not accept them, those words remain yours." Upon hearing this, the person immediately bowed their head in admiration. A short story, but a big lesson. The speaker is not scary. It is only scary when our heart is still weak, not bright enough to see that those words are just wind. When hearing others say bad things about oneself, the first reaction of the majority is resistance, wanting to clear one's name, wanting to prove oneself. But the more we explain, the more chaotic the heart becomes. The more we speak, the more the mind suffers. Sometimes we remain silent, but silence in anger is still suffering. A person learning the way must learn how to be quiet through wisdom, not quietude to helplessness quiet, because they know that gossip is inherently unreal. People's words are not fixed, and their emotions are also impermanent. Today they hate, tomorrow they love. Today they praise, tomorrow they criticize. If we keep chasing those changing emotions, our life will never have a peaceful day. Only when we stop, look deep into the mind, do we see that all words outside cannot hurt us if inside there is no attachment. The person speaking evil is actually a person who is suffering. They speak words that hurt others because inside their heart they are hurting, because their mind is filled with afflictions, jealousy, anger, or inferiority. When we understand that, we no longer get angry, but generate compassion. We pity them because they do not yet see the truth. Pity them because they are living in delusion and creating karma for themselves. Any Buddhist who can see someone doing evil and generate a mind of compassion is walking on the path of a bodhisattva. A practitioner does not use resentment to answer resentment, does not use evil words to answer evil words, but uses a wholesome mind to treat it. Only love can dissolve hatred. Only understanding can neutralize anger. If we keep reacting with anger, the wind of life gets stronger and the waves in the mind get higher. But if we stop, smile, and breathe a breath of mindfulness, the wind will naturally calm and the waves will naturally settle. A mind that knows how to love naturally becomes peaceful, because when we love, we no longer place ourselves at the center, but put others in their position, seeing that they also have suffering, they also have confusion. At that time, the words spoken are no longer things that make us suffer, but opportunities for us to practice patience and cultivate compassion and wisdom. Someone once said the speaker is not scary. It is only scary when the heart is not bright enough. Indeed, the light of wisdom in the mind is the lamp shining through the darkness of gossip. When that light is present, the darkness naturally dissolves. A person with wisdom is not afraid of being misunderstood because they know time and truth will speak for themselves. A person without wisdom tries to prove, argue, and react, ultimately only getting more tired. So the root of suffering does not lie in people's words, but in our clinging mind. When the mind still clings, small words become big. When the mind does not cling, a storm becomes a gentle breeze. Buddhists learning the way need to practice looking at themselves every time they hear words that go against their wishes. Why do I suffer? Because of their words, or because my mind is not yet peaceful enough? That question, if repeated every day, will be a miraculous medicine helping us correct the mind. Once the mind is bright, people's words are just like a distant bell ringing and then fading, leaving no trace. At that time, we live in the world as if in meditation, hearing the sounds of life but remaining serene, seeing the waves rise but the mind not moving. That is the realm of someone who understands the way. A Buddhist asked, "Sir, I haven't done anything wrong, but people keep speaking ill of me, keep misunderstanding. If I stay quiet, they say I'm weak. If I speak, they say I'm argumentative. So what must I do so my heart doesn't suffer?" This question seems simple, but actually touches the very root of human pain in life. Everyone among us has at least once fallen into the situation of having untrue things said about them. The feeling of being misunderstood, of being judged unjustly, makes the heart very heavy, sometimes angry, sometimes sad, sometimes wanting to clear one's name to reclaim justice. But on the path of practice, the Buddha taught that justice does not come from defeating others, but from conquering oneself. When we conquer our anger, conquer the mind of competition, then in that very moment, the mind has peace. The Buddha once taught, "Whoever scolds me, criticizes me, slanders me, and I do not give rise to anger, that person has won the greatest victory." That saying reminds us that the strength of a practitioner lies not in words of justification, but in silence with wisdom. If we understand people's words as blowing wind, we will know the wind only touches the surface. It cannot touch the bottom of the heart when the heart is already calm. When others speak ill of us, the first thing to remember is that they are only speaking their view, not the absolute truth. Each person has a different view, depending on karma, depending on consciousness, depending on emotions. Some people are happy, so they see us kindly, sad, so they see us wrongly. Some understand a part, but think they know it all. If we keep running after them to explain every word, our life will be full of fatigue. Buddhists learning the way should understand truth needs no protection. Just live correctly, and time will prove it. Sometimes silence is the loudest voice of wisdom, because it keeps one's mind from being stirred and avoids creating more karma through heated words. Someone asked, "But if I stay quiet and they misunderstand forever, what then?" The Buddha taught that if a person misunderstands and refuses to open their heart, even if we speak 1,000 words, it is useless. But a person with a bright mind needs only a short time to realize it themselves. So do not fear being misunderstood, only fear our mind losing its peace, because losing peace is what truly makes us suffer. As for gossip, it is just a passing shadow. To have a heart free from suffering, first, we must see clearly that no one can make us suffer if we do not agree to it. Suffering is only born when we agree with people's words, believing they are right, or wanting to fight back to prove they are wrong. Both make the mind uneasy. If a Buddhist wants peace, return to the breath, inhale deeply, exhale slowly, acknowledge the mind as being agitated, and whisper, "I know the wind of life is blowing, but I am a mountain that does not move." Repeating this, the mind will gradually get used to stillness. Others speak, I still hear, but hear with a bright mind, not a clinging mind. Gradually, criticism no longer touches us. At that time, our silence is not weakness, but the strength of wisdom. Someone who understands the way does not need to win with words, but wins with serenity. Also, sometimes when we hear criticism, instead of getting angry, we should see it as a mirror. If there is truth in those words, we thank them and correct ourselves. If it is completely incorrect, we smile because we know we have just had an opportunity to practice patience. The more a person can endure, the greater their merit. Patience is not suppressing oneself, but deeply understanding that everything is impermanent. Other people's emotions also change daily. The person who criticizes today may praise tomorrow. The person who hates today may cherish tomorrow. But if our heart knows how to keep kind, keep bright, keep peaceful, then no matter how they change, we remain like a mountain before the wind, steadfast and unmoving. That is the way not to suffer amidst a myriad of gossiping words, and it is also the path of a true practitioner one. returning to themselves in the silence of wisdom and self-love. If after listening to this part, Buddhists realize in their hearts that people's words do not make us suffer, but only the clinging mind causes us pain, then that is when wisdom has begun to bloom. I invite Buddhists to share your feelings in the comments section below. Perhaps a sincere word from you might help someone who is suffering feel lighter. And if you see these teachings bringing peace, please joyfully press subscribe to the channel so we can sow more good seeds together, spread the Dharma, connect in good karma, and pray for all Buddhists to increase merit through good words, beautiful thoughts, and a kind heart. In the spiritual life, the hardest thing is not facing others, but facing one's own mind. Many times people have finished speaking, but waves are still rising in our hearts. People have forgotten, but we still remember. Words exist only for a moment, but because our mind does not let go, they repeat over and over, making us suffer forever. Therefore, the Buddha taught 3 keys to keeping the mind at peace before the winds of life. Let go boom, stop done. Let it be thaike. Those 3 phrases sound simple, but if practiced, the heart will be incredibly light. Let go of things not needed to be kept. Stop the reaction and let be whatever isn't worth worrying about. Just living these 3 things, we have gone halfway to liberation. First is let go. Letting go is not throwing everything away, but knowing how to choose what to keep and what to release. In a person's mind, there are too many things, from small matters to old words, from anger of past years to desires for tomorrow. If we keep hugging all those things, the mind will be as heavy as a load of rocks. Letting go is not laziness or indifference, but wisdom realizing that there are things not worth carrying. When someone speaks ill, we can let go of the anger. When others compete, we let go of the desire to fight. When meeting situations against our will, we let go of expectations. Once we can let go, the heart feels spacious. The ancients said, if the mind widens by an inch, merit increases by a fathom. Letting go is opening the heart. Opening the heart is sowing merit. Any Buddhist who knows how to let go already possesses half a portion of peace. Next is stop. Stopping is the power of mindfulness. Stopping is not preventing oneself from reacting, but knowing that one is reacting. When someone says harsh words, the mind usually wants to retaliate, wants to justify, wants to counterattack. But a practitioner, seeing the mind agitated, immediately stops, breathes deeply, acknowledges the emotion rising, and then lets it fade away like a cloud passing across the sky. The Buddha taught that he who knows how to stop is winning, because stopping before uttering hot words, stopping before creating karma, stopping to see one's mind clearly. If in a day a Buddhist just stops a few times before anger arises, then each stop is a practice, a time saving oneself from karma. Stopping is not weak, but strong. Strong because one is not dragged away by instinct. And finally, let it be thaike. Many people are afraid of the phrase, let it be, thinking it is an attitude of giving up, letting life be however it is. But in the way, let it be is not letting go through helplessness, but letting go of attachment through wisdom. Let it be means knowing that life is inherently impermanent. People's hearts are inherently changing, and gossip is inherently like wind. Everything comes and goes. Nothing is fixed. If we keep trying to hold on, it only makes the mind more tired. When we let it be, It doesn't mean we don't care, but we care with clarity, knowing what is good to do, what is wrong to avoid. As for what people say, what the world thinks, we just smile, and that's it. Let it be is not indifference, but dwelling in a calm mind, looking at things with compassion. When the mind is bright enough, let it be becomes a protective mantra, helping us not be swept along by the winds of life. There is a very beautiful image the Buddha often used as a metaphor. There is no need to stop the wind, just make the lake surface calm. If we keep trying to stop the wind, we will be disappointed because wind is the nature of life. But if we make the lake surface clear, then even if the wind blows, waves only ripple slightly and then vanish. The practitioner's mind is the same. If we keep wanting others not to speak, not to criticize, not to do wrong, we will suffer forever. But if we know how to keep our mind at peace, the words of the world no longer have the power to stir us. A mindful breath, a gentle smile, a tolerant look, that is how we keep the lake surface clear. Buddhists, try looking back at yourselves. How much suffering in life is not due to others, but because our own mind refuses to let go, refuses to stop, refuses to let it be. The more we try to cling, the more tired we get. The more we try to argue, the more chaotic we become. The more we try to prove, the more we lose peace. But when we practice letting go, practice stopping, practice letting it be, naturally the heart is light as a cloud, the mind cool as the wind, and life becomes much gentler. Those three phrases are not just for speaking, but are a daily practice. Let go to lighten the mind, stop to brighten the mind, let it be to calm the mind. A person who lives like that will keep a gentle smile amidst all gossip and walk leisurely on the path of spiritual study. A Buddhist asked, "Sir, I hear I must let go, must stop, must let it be." But in reality, there are times when people do wrong, say wrong. If I don't react, they encroach further. What must I do to keep my mind at peace without being seen as weak? This question is very real because in life, not a few people misunderstand kindness, thinking kindness means getting trampled, patience means losing, and silence means fear. But a practitioner who understands correctly knows that kindness is not weakness, patience is not losing, and let it be is not giving up. The Buddha taught that the greatest strength lies not in defeating others, but in conquering oneself. If we can conquer the anger in our heart, that is true strength. But if we let people's words make us angry, then no matter how reasonable our words are, we are still the loser in the internal battle. Letting go does not mean letting others do wrong forever, but letting go of the mind that wants revenge. Stopping does not mean standing still for people to oppress, but stopping the mind of hatred, the impulsive reaction that makes us lose our composure. Let it be does not mean ignoring everything, but ceasing to cling, ceasing to let the mind be bound by that wrong thing. When the mind is peaceful, wisdom is bright, and when wisdom is bright, we know what to say and what to do, so it is both accordant with the Dharma and reasonable. Sometimes we need to speak, but speak in calmness, speak to help people, not speak to defeat people. Sometimes we are silent, but silent with a smile, not silent with resentment. A practitioner is like that. Doing anything is based on wisdom and compassion. Many Buddhists say, "I'm silent, but my heart is still angry, so I haven't truly let go." That's right. Letting go is not in the external action, but in the internal emotion. There are people whose mouths are silent, but whose minds are noisy. There are people who react outwardly, but remain peaceful inwardly. So the important thing is not whether we react or not, but whether our mind gets swept along or not. The Buddha taught that a person with wisdom is like clear water. Even if the wind blows, the water's surface only wavers a bit and then returns to peace. The practicing mind is the same. It can waver for a moment, but will settle down very quickly. At that time, we know we are progressing because we have the ability to recognize the mind and stop at the right time. As for the matter of people encroaching further, actually, it's not because we are kind that they encroach, but because they do not understand, do not practice, do not know how to stop. Everyone has karma, and sometimes they are the very lesson for us to train our hearts. If we keep fearing being trampled and have to use anger to defend ourselves, we are burning our own merit. But if we use wisdom and compassion, keeping the precepts or keeping the mind, then no one can truly harm us. People of the world and say whatever they say, but merit only comes to those who know patience, no letting go, no stopping at the right time. A person who keeps a kind heart in adverse situations, that is the strength of the way. Sometimes letting it be is the fastest way to resolve things. When we let it be, we don't feed more negative energy, but keep the heart pure. Every phenomenon has its causes and conditions. When conditions come, just face them with a calm mind. When conditions pass, smile and move on. If we try to hold on, the mind will suffer. If we know to let it be, the heart will be at peace. Remember that someone who understands the way does not run away from life, but is serene right within life. Let the wind blow, the mountain still stands still. Let the world speak, the kind person still smiles. Therefore, when encountering things not as desired, Buddhists should not hastily think that letting go, stopping, and letting it be means surrendering. Instead, see them as three practices to protect one's mind. Let go to not keep toxic things in the heart. Stop to not create more karma. Let it be to not get swept into the cycle of winning and losing. When we do that, we are not only not seen as weak, but also radiate the strength of a serene person, of a wise person. And a wise person needs no proof, because just by living correctly, merit and peace will clearly manifest in every word, every look, every step. If after listening to this point, Buddhists feel a little lighter in their hearts, knowing how to smile at adverse things, knowing how to stop before anger, and knowing how to let go of things not needed to be kept, then that is the first step of peace. I invite Buddhists to share your feelings in the comments section below. Perhaps a sincere word from a Buddhist might be a cool breeze for someone who is suffering. And if you find this lecture helps the mind calm down, please joyfully press subscribe to the channel so that together with me we can spread the Dharma and sow more good seeds. And I pray for all Buddhists to increase merit through good words, beautiful thoughts, and a kind heart amidst a life of many changes. When we have understood that gossip is the wine of life, that the root of suffering lies not in people's words, but in the clinging mind, and that only when we know how to let go, stop, and let it be does the heart find peace at that moment. We see clearly what it means to live kindly, live truthfully, and live peacefully. These three things are not just worldly morality, but a path of liberation right in this life. Because a person who lives kindly, truthfully, and peacefully is a person living with their own Buddha nature. Living kindly is first of all knowing not to do things that cause suffering to oneself and others. In speech and action and thought, always generating wholesome intentions. Many Buddhists think kindness is weakness, being trampled on by people. But true kindness is the strength of self-love. A kind person harms no one, nor do they let hatred harm themselves. The Buddha taught that a kind person is like water, staying in low places but nourishing all species. Water, soft but can conquer rock. Kindness is the same, silently transforming the hardest things. A kind person makes anyone who comes near feel comfortable, feel reassured, because in their heart there is no resentment, no attachment, only listening and empathy. Living truthfully is living without deceit, without painting a facade, without chasing an image. Being true with others is hard, but being true with oneself is even harder. Sometimes we smile, but the heart is not happy. We speak nice words, but the mind is full of calculation. Living like that makes the mind tired because it has to strain to keep a beautiful ego in the eyes of others. Buddhists should remember that people can praise, can criticize, but only the Buddha in the heart knows if we are living truthfully or falsely. Living truthfully is daring to admit faults when wrong, daring to let go when seeing oneself cling, daring to stand on the side of good, even if disadvantaged. A person living truthfully does not need to please anyone, only needs not to lie to their own heart. When the heart is straight, naturally speech is straight, and action is straight. That is the seed of peace. Living peacefully is the result of the two things above. When the mind is kind, we no longer hurt anyone. When the mind is true, we no longer have to be fake. And when we are kind and true, naturally the heart is at peace. Living peacefully is not living without afflictions, but knowing how to smile when afflictions come, knowing how to be silent when the world is noisy, knowing how to return to the breath when the mind is agitated. Buddhists studying practice do not need to find a quiet place to be at peace, but can be at peace right in the marketplace of life, amidst the noise of vehicles, amidst work, amidst difficult people, as long as there is mindfulness in the heart. Peace does not come from outside, but from how we face the outside. There are people deep in the forest whose minds are still chaotic. There are people in a crowded market whose minds are still peaceful. Because peace or not depends on whether the mind is concentrated or scattered. A kind person is sometimes still hated. A truthful person is sometimes still misunderstood. A peaceful person is sometimes still challenged. But Buddhists, do not be sad, for that is the rule of life. A flower blooms because it is a flower, not because people praise it. A kind person lives kindly because kindness is their nature, not kind because of praise, nor changing because of criticism. Like the sun still shining, even if there are clouds, a meditative heart is still bright even if people misunderstand. The Buddha taught, do good, do not hope for people's praise. Do evil, do not fear people knowing, just knowing one's own mind clearly, that is wisdom. Therefore, a person learning the way does not live to please the world, but lives to make their own heart serene. When living kindly, living truthfully, living peacefully, we will see that although this life has many storms, it is no longer scary. The wind still blows, but is no longer strong enough to shake the mountain. People still speak, but can no longer touch the heart. Our heart is like an autumn lake. When the wind comes, it ripples and then becomes calm again. Every day we just need to live right, act right, think right, and smile amidst things contrary to our will. That is practice. The Buddha does not force us to stay away from the world, only teaches us to live in the world without being dragged away by the world. When the mind is kind, we are close to the Buddha. When the mind is true, we see the Dharma. When the mind is peaceful, we meet the Sangha within ourselves. And then, when looking back, we will understand that living kindly is sowing good seeds, living truthfully is nourishing wisdom, and living peacefully is reaping the fruit of liberation. Those three things are not separate, but rely on each other like three breaths of an awakened person. Every morning, if we generate the thought, "Today I live kindly, today I live truthfully, today I keep my heart peaceful," then that day is already a day of practice. Any Buddhist who practices like this, gradually the winds of life will no longer make the mind waver, and the smile on the lips will be gentler, radiant like a lotus flower rising from the mud without being stained by mud, fragrant without needing to show off its scent. A Buddhist asked, "Sir, I try to live kindly, live truthfully, not competing with anyone. But it seems the more I am like that, the more people look down on me, even finding ways to take advantage. What must I do to keep a kind heart without being hurt?" That question is truly sincere, as it is also the feeling of many people practicing amidst life. In life, sometimes being too kind leads to being criticized as weak. Being honest leads to being called foolish. Living peacefully, but being misunderstood as lazy. Avoiding gossip, but being called indifferent. But the Buddha taught, a practitioner does not fear being misunderstood, only fears losing the kind heart. Because kindness is nature, is the natural light in everyone, while misunderstanding is just a passing shadow. If because of fear of the shadow, we extinguish our light, we lose our own path to liberation. Living kindly does not mean letting others do whatever they want. Kindness is not weakness, but having the wisdom not to create more suffering. When others are hot, we keep cool. When others are wrong, we at no fault. A kind person knows their limits clearly, knows to say no when necessary, but speaks with a compassionate mind, not in anger, not in resentment. There are times to refuse, times to speak clearly, that speaking in mindfulness and love, that is the strength of a kind person. A kind person who lets fear into their heart is not truly kind yet. A kind person who lets the heart suffer is still clinging. Kindness must go with wisdom, like water that is soft but can penetrate rock, like clouds that are light but can shade the sun. Living truthfully sometimes causes us disadvantage, but it is only a disadvantage in the eyes of the world, not a disadvantage on the path of practice. A fake person may be praised in front of their face, but in their heart, they are always uneasy because they have to live up to others' expectations. A truthful person, even if criticized, still sleeps well, still smiles because they don't have to hide anything. A Buddhist living truthfully is someone who dares to look straight into their heart, dares to admit when wrong, dares to correct when mistaken. A person living like that is truly a person with real merit. A word of praise from the world only makes us happy for a moment, but a truthful heart makes us peaceful for a lifetime. As for being taken advantage of, the Buddha taught that no one can deceive a person with wisdom. They can only test the heart of a person with self-love. If we are kind and have wisdom, we still help people, but know where the limit is. We do not do things harmful to ourselves, but also do not resent those who have harmed us. We help when we should help, withdraw when we need to withdraw. But in everything, we keep a compassionate mind, because helping is not for people to owe us gratitude, but for us to sow merit. And if we see we are being taken advantage of but still don't get angry, that is when merit is being born. Buddhists, remember, people suffer from being taken advantage of only because they still hope for a return. Someone who expects nothing suffers nothing. Doing good without seeking fruits, that is the virtue of a wise person. Living peacefully in the world is not easy, but also not hard. Just every day before speaking, think if those words are kind. Before acting, think if that action harms anyone. Before getting angry, remember that one is practicing. Then speech will be gentle, actions will be correct, and the mind will be at peace. Any Buddhist who keeps these three things, wherever they are, whatever they do, is practicing the way. A kind person needs no proof. A truthful person needs no concealment. A peaceful person needs no place to hide. Wherever they are, that place becomes a place of practice because their heart is already the Dharma. So do not fear being looked down upon, only fear not being kind enough. Do not fear being taken advantage of, only fear losing one's own heart. Do not fear what others say, only fear one's heart is no longer at peace. When we are kind, we are sowing merit. When we are true, we are planting wisdom. When we are peaceful, we are in the way. And when those three things combine, the wind of life, no matter how hard it blows, cannot shake the mountain of the heart within us. If after listening to this part, Buddhists clearly feel in their hearts that kindness is not weakness, truthfulness is not foolishness, and peace is not evasion, then please keep that smile like a lotus in the heart. I respectfully invite Buddhists to share your feelings in the comments below so those kind words, those good words, can be spread like the scent of lotus in life. And if you find this lecture helps the mind settle down, please joyfully press subscribe to the channel so we can connect in good karma, sow seeds of merit together, and pray for all Buddhists to increase merit through good words, beautiful thoughts, and a compassionate heart amidst the fluctuating currents of life. A Buddhist asked, "Sir, I have practiced for many years, listened to the Dharma, chanted sutras, done good deeds, but why is my mind still often sad, still easily moved by people's words and life's scenes? What must I do to keep a peaceful mind in all circumstances?" That question seems simple, but is actually the root of practice, because all that we study, chant, or do good deeds for, if it does not lead to peace in the mind, it remains learning outside the door of the way. The Buddha once taught that to practice is to correct, correcting from wrong view to right view, from an agitated mind to a still mind, from attachment to selflessness, from suffering to peace. But that path cannot be traveled by reason alone, but must be traveled by living experience. Every word people say, every situation contrary to our will, is a lesson to reflect on ourselves. When someone makes us angry, instead of blaming them, look to see where our mind is clinging. When someone praises, do not rush to be happy. Ask yourself if you are generating pride. When someone criticizes, do not rush to be sad. Ask yourself if there is any truth in that criticism to correct. One who knows how to practice is one who knows how to take adversity as a place of practice. Take the words of the world as a Dharma lesson. Buddhists practicing for many years often fall into practicing by form, meaning keeping rituals and appearances, but not truly keeping the mind. Some people chant sutras very diligently, but when someone goes against their will, they still flare up in anger. Some people give charity a lot, but feel sad when not thanked. That is because the mind still expects. The Buddha taught that giving charity while expecting praise is the charity of ordinary people. Helping people without attachment to merit is the charity of saints. Likewise, practicing while seeking peace is the practice of ordinary people. Practicing while seeing that within suffering there is still the way is the practice of an awakened person. When the mind no longer distinguishes suffering, joy, gain, and loss, peace will come on its own. Many Buddhists also ask music how to know if one is progressing on the path of practice. The Buddha taught, look at your reaction to adversity. In the past, if someone said a word against your will, you were angry all week. Now hearing it, you are just sad a little and then let go. That is progress. In the past, if someone criticized, you lost sleep. Now hearing it, you still smile. That is progress. In the past, seeing someone better than you were jealous. Now knowing how to rejoice, that is progress. Practice is not changing others, but transforming oneself. No need to compare with anyone, just needing to see each day our heart is lighter than yesterday. That is practice. The Buddha taught to be in the marketplace of life without the mind being chaotic. That is the way. The marketplace of life is not just a place of buying and selling, but every situation, every relationship, every exchange of words. When we can stand in the midst of that and keep a kind mind, a bright mind, a peaceful mind, we are practicing the way. Others are hot, we keep cold. Others are wrong, we keep right. Others are noisy, we keep silent. That is the way music to practice in the world. No need to go into the mountains, because the true mountain is the quiet mind. Once the mind is at peace, any place is a place of practice. Any person is a spiritual friend. Any adversity is a Dharma door. Some people complain, I practice forever, but don't see results. Actually, the result is not something we seek, but something that comes naturally when causes and conditions are sufficient. Like planting a tree, just tend the soil, water, and fertilize, and the tree will grow over time. You cannot pull the tree to make it tall, nor force the flower to bloom early. Practice is the same, just persist every day in keeping a kind mind, a truthful mind, a peaceful mind, and even if the fruit is not yet seen, the root is already firm. Sometimes we think we haven't changed, but if reflected through others, we will see we are less hot-tempered, less suffering, less competitive. Every mindful breath, every time stopping before a fit of anger, is a step forward on the path of enlightenment. Any Buddhist who keeps a kind mind amidst bitter words, keeps a truthful heart amidst false scenes, and keeps a peaceful mind amidst the waves of life music, that person is living in the way. No need to chant much, no need to say much. Just living like that is illuminating the Buddha's teachings, because all teachings ultimately return to one word, mind. Mind at peace, the scene is tame. Mind agitated, the scene is chaotic. So do not pray for the wind of life to stop blowing, but pray for your mind to be as steady as a mountain. When the heart is kind, wind turns cool. When the heart is bright, night turns to day. When the heart is peaceful, life turns into the way. A Buddhist asked, Sir, I listen to the Dharma, chant sutras, and recite the Buddha's name every day. But why is my mind still often worried, thinking, easily sad, easily sensitive? Sometimes hearing people say just one sentence, my mind is still moved, still feeling weak. Is my practice wrong? This question is very sincere and is also the concern of many people on the path of practice. The Buddha taught, do not fear the mind arising, only fear awakening slowly. This means it is okay if the mind wavers, is sad or worried, as long as we soon know we are wavering, sad, or worried. Know in order to stop, to tame, to reflect. The path of practice is not to turn us into people without emotions, but to help us see emotions clearly without being dominated by them. So the fact that the mind is still moved is not wrong, but an opportunity to know where we still need to practice. The longer Buddhists practice, the more they need to learn how to look back at themselves rather than looking outward. When the mind worries, ask, what am I afraid of? When the mind is sad, ask, what am I clinging to? When hearing someone say something that moves you, ask, why can a single sentence make my mind uneasy? Each question like that is a moment of illumination, a moment of true practice, because the root of suffering lies not outside, but where the mind is not bright enough. Others only touch it, but we are the ones keeping that suffering. When knowing how to return, knowing how to recognize, knowing how to release, then bit by bit the mind will be less moved, the heart less worried, the intellect less dim. Someone said, I recite the Buddha's name a lot, but why is my mind still chaotic? Actually, reciting the Buddha's name is not to drive away wandering thoughts, but to recognize wandering thoughts. When thoughts arise, just know you are wandering. No need to drive them away. No need to blame yourself. The more you blame, the more the mind moves. The more you drive away, the more the mind is chaotic. Just know and smile. Then return to the breath. Continue reciting a Buddha's name gently, and naturally the mind will settle down. Like a stirred lake, the more you stir, the murkier it gets. But if left alone, the sediment will settle on its own. A practitioner is the same. No need to force the mind to be quiet. Just stop stirring, and the mind will quiet itself. When the mind is still often sad, thinking, or sensitive, it shows our heart is still soft, and that is not bad, because that very softness is the material of compassion. We just need to know how to transform sadness into understanding, transform worrying into care, transform weakness into compassion. Then even those emotions become the path. An unfeeling person does not suffer, but also does not mature. A person who knows suffering, but still keeps a kind mind, that is a person growing in the way. So do not criticize yourself for being weak. Just seeing every day that your mind knows how to listen better, be more patient, love more is making progress. Buddhists should remember the Buddha does not demand we be perfect, only teaches us to be true with suffering, true with the mind, true with the path we walk. When knowing we are still moved, still clinging, still sad, see it as a mirror. Do not hide, do not self-blame, because it is thanks to seeing we are not enough that we continue to go. One who knows they are still suffering has walked half the path of enlightenment. One who thinks they have ended suffering stands still in ignorance. So do not fear the mind moving, only fear not knowing the mind is moving. Do not fear worrying and sadness, only fear not knowing one is worried and sad. When known, that means there is light. Where there is light, darkness has no power. When the mind is still moved, return to the breath. When the heart is still worried, Remember the Buddhist words, when hearing people say unwholesome things, smile and think, the wind of life is blowing, but the mountain of my heart still stands. Practicing like that, over time it will become a habit, and that habit will become character. At that time, no matter how big the wind, the heart will not move. A person who knows how to practice does not need to avoid waves, just needs to learn how to surf the waves with a peaceful mind. And when doing so, every breath, every step of ours is already a living Dharma talk amidst life. If after listening to this point, Buddhists feel comforted, understanding that practice is not to hide from suffering, but to see suffering clearly and transform it, then that is the sign of brightening wisdom. I respectfully invite Buddhists to share your feelings in the comments below. Perhaps a calm and sincere word from a Buddhist might help someone find peace amidst the waves of life. And if seeing this lecture brings benefits, please joyfully press subscribe to the channel so we can connect in good karma, spread the Dharma, and pray for all Buddhists to increase merit through good words, beautiful thoughts, and a kind heart amidst an impermanent life. Once upon a time, in a small village by the river, there was a man named Tam, a gentle, quiet person who always helped others without expecting anything in return. The whole village knew him as a kind-hearted man who always thought of others in whatever he did. But strangely, the kinder he was, the more gossip he encountered. Some said he was fake kind and fake righteous. Some said he did good deeds to get a good reputation. Some jealous people even tried to smear him with untrue words. At first, Tam was very sad. He thought he lived decently, harming no one. So why was he misunderstood like that? Some nights he sat by the porch listening to the wind blow through the bamboo, wondering to himself, if living kindly still leads to being hated, what is the meaning of living kindly? One afternoon, he went to the village temple, knelt before the Buddha statue, and said to the abbot, Reverend Master, I do good deeds, but people still speak ill of me. I am silent, but they say I am weak. I help people, but they say I am fake. I feel my heart is very heavy. Please teach me how not to suffer anymore. The abbot looked at him, smiled gently, and led him to the back of the temple. There lay a large lake. On the surface, leaves had fallen everywhere. The wind blew gently. Waves rippled. The monk asked, Do you see anything? Tam replied, Yes, I see leaves falling with the wind, water rippling. The monk said, If you want this lake to be flat and calm, what will you do? Tam said, Sir, I would pick up all the leaves and block the wind. The monk smiled. If you could block the wind, you would have supernatural powers. The wind is natural. You cannot stop it. But if you let the lake be quiet, leaves fall without disturbing, wind blows without stirring, then the lake will be clear. Hearing this, Tam suddenly understood. From that day on, he no longer tried to explain and spoken of wrongly, nor got angry when misunderstood. Whatever anyone said, he just smiled. Someone asked, Are you not angry? He replied, People speak because they see in their way. I listen in my way. The wind blows past. So be it. Why keep it? Gradually, people realized that no matter what anyone said, he still lived kindly, still did good deeds, still helped people silently. The villagers gradually respected him more. A person who once criticized him came to apologize. I spoke wrongly about you. Tam just smiled. Whatever you said, I have forgotten. Words are like wind. I do not keep them in my heart. Years later, Mr. Tam fell seriously ill. Before passing away, he told his descendants, "People suffer not because others speak, but because they keep others' words in their hearts. When you know how to let go, know how to stop, know how to let it be, your heart will be at peace. Live kindly even if the world misunderstands. Live truthfully even if anyone doubts. And live peacefully even if there are many storms around. Because gossip is just wind, a kind heart is the mountain." Having spoken, he closed his eyes, a gentle smile still on his lips. That story was later passed down by villagers to their descendants as a lesson about the power of peace. People often fear the wind, but do not know that it is the wind that makes leaves fly, the waves that make water clear, the adversity that makes the mind bright. If there were no winds of life, how would we know if our heart is truly steady? If there were no words of others, how would we learn to let go? Buddhists, hearing this story, try to reflect on yourselves. How many times have we kept in our hearts words others said, forgetting that they passed long ago? How many times have we suffered wanting to prove, instead of smiling and letting go? The winds of life still blow, but if the heart is kind, we will see every gust of wind as a Dharma lesson from the Buddha, teaching us to know how to stop, know how to let go, know how to let it be, to remain serene in life. A Buddhist asked, "Sir, I hear many stories about kind people being unjustly treated, truthful people being disadvantaged, good people being misunderstood. I also try to live kindly, live truthfully, but sometimes I'm tired, feeling it's unfair, feeling discouraged, sometimes wanting to give it all up and let life be. Is that wrong according to the way?" This question is very worldly, but also very spiritual, because anyone walking on the path of practice will have times of fatigue seeing themselves do right, but no one understands. Seeing dishonest people get praised, while kind people suffer disadvantage. Any Buddhist who passes through that state of mind truly enters the door of the way, because practicing is not to be praised by the world, but to keep the heart from suffering when criticized by the world. The Buddha taught, "He who does good expecting return, that merit is not great. He who does good forgetting he is doing it, that merit is immeasurable." Living kindly in the world will inevitably lead to moments of disadvantage, but that disadvantage is only temporary, while good merit is long-lasting, because every time we keep a kind heart in adverse situations, we are sowing a seed of merit in the mind. That seed is not seen immediately, but when causes and conditions are sufficient, it will bloom into the flower of peace. Many Buddhists complain, "I do good things, but only receive gossip in return." But if you look deeper, you will see those very words of gossip are teaching you to know patience, no letting go, no letting it be without adversity, how to know if one's heart is quiet or not, without people speaking ill, how to know if one's mind clings or not. So in the way, adversity is not to harm, but to train. People speaking ill is not to make us suffer, but to help us see our mind clearly. When we understand this, the heart will blame less, suffer less. Whatever people say, let them say. However we live, just live. When our heart is true, time will answer for us. Sometimes it takes a few years, sometimes a lifetime, but the truth is never lost. But if because of fatigue we let go of the kind heart, we essentially lose the bright jewel in the mind. Buddhists, remember, a kind person does not need to prove they are kind. A truthful person does not need to explain they are truthful, because the way does not lie in people's mouths, but lies in our hearts. When the mind is clear, dirty words become clean. When the mind is bright, darkness becomes light. But if the mind is tainted, no matter who praises, there is no peace. A practitioner can be tired, but must not despair. Fatigue is because old karma is dissolving, because merit is being born. Whenever feeling discouraged, breathe deeply, recite Namo Amitabha Buddha to remind yourself that life is impermanent. People are conditions, actions are causes. Only a peaceful mind is the root. Do not let the world's words shake you. Do not let praise and blame change you. When the mind is steady, evil words become a cool breeze. Adversity becomes a lotus flower. A truly kind person, someone who can smile in a storm, knowing that any storm will eventually pass. Only the mountain stands forever. So living kindly in the world is not being naive, but choosing the path of wisdom, because only a wise person dares to be kind. Only a wise person dares to be truthful, and only a wise person can be at peace in all things contrary to their will. If anyone understands, that is destiny. If no one understands, that is a challenge. Both are opportunities to practice. One who knows how to practice does not ask why they do that, but asks if my mind is at peace yet. Once the mind is at peace, all questions dissolve. At that time, no matter how hard the wind of life blows, our heart stands as firm as a mountain. If after listening to this part, Buddhists feel their hearts soften, understanding that a kind person needs no proof, a truthful person needs no defense, then please keep that smile like a lotus in the wine of life. I respectfully invite Buddhists to share your feelings in the comments below. Perhaps a sincere word from a Buddhist will be a source music of comfort for someone who is suffering. And if you find this lecture helps the mind become lighter, please joyfully press subscribe to the channel so we can spread the Dharma together, so more good conditions, and pray for all Buddhists to increase merit through good words, beautiful thoughts, and a kind heart amidst an impermanent life. The story of the person keeping a kind heart amidst the winds of life. Once upon a time, in a small village by the mountainside, there was a woman named Lean. All her life she lived kindly, diligently, often helping neighbors. Whatever anyone asked, she accepted without calculating gain or loss. In her home, she lived frugally. In the world, she lived generously. Poor people knocking on her door always got a portion of rice or vegetables to share. The villagers all cherished her, but there were also jealous people. One day, someone accused her of taking from the temple, saying she exploited the villagers' trust for private gain. The rumor spread as fast as the wind. Just after a few days, people looked at her with different eyes. She did not argue, just smiled and continued her daily work. Someone who loved her advised her to speak up to defend her honor. She just said, "If people trust the wind's words more than the truth's, then let the wind blow, I just keep living." But in her heart, there were still restless nights. She lit incense before the Buddha's altar, tears falling, but her heart remaining light. She prayed, "O Buddha, if this is karma, I ask to pay it. I only hope to keep a peaceful mind." The next morning, she went out to the garden and saw the wind blowing hard, leaves falling all over the yard. She bent down to sweep leaves, watching each leaf curl in the wind. She smiled. She suddenly understood wind is natural. No one can stop it. But if one's heart is calm, wind is just the breath of the sky. From then on, she paid no attention to rumors anymore. Whoever came, she was still welcoming. Whoever criticized, she still smiled. The more people spoke, the more silent she was. The more people suspected, the more she helped. Many people said she was foolish, but those who came near felt a strange source of peace in her, like wind through the forest, light and cool, unattached to worldly dust. A year later, a theft occurred in the temple. The thief was caught, and he confessed that he was the one who'd spread bad news about her to blind everyone. The villagers then realized the truth. People came to her house to apologize, bowing their heads in regret. She just laughed and said, "People speaking ill of me I forgot since yesterday. As for people apologizing to me, I loved them from before that." Her words were light as clouds, but silence to everyone who heard. The village abbot heard the story and invited her to the temple, saying she was not a learned person, but her mind had learned what no scripture could teach. She bowed her head and replied softly, "I only remember the Buddhist teaching. A wise person is like a high mountain. Wine does not shake it. I do not block the wind, I only practice standing still." Many years later, Mrs. Lean passed away in serenity. The villagers erected a small stele in front of the temple, carving these lines: "Gossip is wind, a kind heart is a mountain, the wine passes, the mountain still stands." That sentence was later repeated by villagers as a reminder to themselves. Whenever encountering things against their will, people recount that every windy season, standing in front of that stele, leaves fall very gently, wind blows very softly, as if bowing before someone who understood the law of impermanence. Buddhists hearing that story can reflect on themselves in life. How many times are we swept along by people's words? How many times do we lose peace just because of a single sentence? If we learn like Mrs. Lean, knowing how to smile, knowing how to be silent, knowing how to keep a kind heart amidst the winds of life, then any suffering becomes light, any storm becomes a cloud, and our mind will become a solid mountain amidst the impermanent flow of life. A Buddhist asked, "Sir, in the story Mrs. Lean was misunderstood but still kept a peaceful mind. I see I haven't been able to do that. When someone speaks wrongly of me, I still feel hot, feel aggrieved, feel very uncomfortable. I know letting go is right, but waves still rise in my heart. How can I have peace like Mrs. Lean in real life?" This question is the common feeling of very many Buddhists, because knowing to let go is easy, but practicing letting go is the hard part. When we have untrue things said about us by someone, the first reaction of a human is wanting to justify, wanting to prove oneself right. That is a self-defense instinct everyone has, but a practitioner must learn to look deeper, must see that what makes us suffer is not those words, but the mind clinging to the ego being affected. That ego wants to be understood, wants to be loved, wants to be recognized. When not as desired, it immediately raises waves. So practice is training to see the ego every time it appears, and then gently putting it down. Mrs. Lean in the story was not born with a peaceful mind, but was someone who had gone through many sufferings and learned how to stand still. When the wind of life blew, she didn't try to stop the wind, but stopped her mind. That requires training, requires patience, because if we aren't used to it, when spoken of wrongly, we will react immediately. But if each time that happens, we just breathe deeply Exhale slowly, telling ourselves this is an opportunity to practice letting go. Then gradually the mind will get used to peace. At first, one might be angry for a day, then reduce to half a day, then just a few minutes, and finally smile. That is real progress in the way. The Buddha does not force us to be peaceful immediately, only teaches us to know we are not peaceful, so we can practice. Someone said, "I'm afraid if I'm silent, people will think I am weak." But a truly weak person is one shaken by people's words, while a strong person is one who keeps the mind amidst storms. Silence has two types: silence in anger and silence in understanding. Silence in anger is repression. Silence in understanding is wakefulness. A practitioner needs to choose the silence of wisdom, not the silence of hurt. When the mind is bright, we know when to speak, when to be silent, when to smile, when to turn away. Mrs. Lin did that not because she feared people's words, but because she saw clearly the nature of people's words as a breeze passing the ear. Wind cannot be kept, sound cannot be bound, only attachment makes us bound. The Buddha taught that when people speak ill of you, see them as giving you an opportunity to practice patience. Patience is not enduring, but seeing clearly the impermanence in every word. Today they speak ill, tomorrow they may praise, today they hate, tomorrow they love again. Then why must we keep those temporary sounds in our hearts forever? When understanding like that, naturally we will feel more pity for people than anger, seeing they are also suffering, mistaken, living in ignorance. A mind that knows how to love is a mind being at peace. So if Buddhists see their hearts still moved, that is not wrong, but a sign of practicing truthfully. The important thing is, after every suffering, do we learn anything? If next time encountering a similar thing the heart is less angry, that is a step forward. Each time like that, we are walking closer to the peace of Mrs. Lin. Remember, one who knows how to practice does not need to find peace outside, just needs peace in every reaction of their own. When someone says something contrary to your will, smile and tell yourself, "The wind is blowing, I just need to stand still." Just like that, through the years, the wind will still remain, but our heart has become a mountain. The story of the bell and the wind. Once upon a time in a small temple on a mountain slope, there was a novice monk named Min. Min was naturally very diligent, early morning sweeping the yard, late evening tending lamps, studying sutras, listening to Dharma without missing a session. The abbot loved him for his gentle, hard-working nature, but in the temple there were also a few older brothers who, seeing the teacher cherish him, felt jealous and often spoke sarcastic words, teased, even fabricated stories. Once, a brother told villagers that novice Min broke an incense bowl, causing everyone to stir. People gossiped and pointed fingers. The novice was very sad, but dared not say anything. That night he knelt before the Buddha statue, eyes red. "O Buddha, I did nothing wrong. Why do people still speak ill of me?" The abbot heard, came over, gently placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Min, wind blows through the bamboo forest. Does the bamboo blame the wind? If the bamboo knows how to bend, the wind only makes the bamboo dace." A practitioner is the same. Words of the world only make the mind firmer. If you know how to listen with a kind heart, from that day, Min changed. Whenever he heard someone say something unkind about him, he just smiled, clasped his hands, and recited Namo Amitabha Buddha The more critics spoke, the more peaceful he became. Some said he was foolish. Some said he was faking. But as time passed, everyone near him saw. Every time the wind of life rose, men remained as calm as an autumn lake. One day, the abbot assigned him the task of ringing the morning bell. The large, heavy bell hung in the middle of the temple yard. At first, he struck hard. The sound was harsh. The teacher taught, the bell's sound is like speech. If too hard, it will shock people's hearts. If too soft, it won't wake anyone. Strike with a peaceful mind, the bell's sound will be round. Obeying the teacher, he learned day by day. Gradually his bell sound rang far and warm, not harsh, not broken. Many years later, when the teacher passed away, the villagers still remembered the early morning bell of novice men. A gentle bell sound amidst the winds of life, making people feel their hearts settle down. One day, someone who once spoke ill of him came to the temple, kneeling under the Buddha statue, saying softly, "In the past I was wrong because I was jealous. Now, hearing the bell, I remember the words your teacher once said. A wise person is like a high mountain. Wind does not shake it, novice men." Now a master looked at the other person and just laughed. "I don't remember anymore." The old wind passed. Only the bell still rings. The other person burst into tears, bowed 3 times, and left. The story of Mastermen spread far. Whoever heard it felt their heart softened. A light bell sound amidst a noisy life. A kind heart amidst so much gossip. That is the image of a true practitioner. Because the bell sound does not compete with the wind, does not need to drown out the noise, but only resonates from a place of stillness. A person learning the way is the same. No need to compete, just keep a kind mind, a bright heart. Then people's words naturally become light as clouds. Master Min once taught his disciples that every human has a bell in their heart. If your mind is awake, that bell ringing out will make others peaceful. If your mind is agitated, that sound will make others uneasy. So practice is not to be silent, but so one's heart voice becomes clear, so that even if the wind of life blows, the bell still rings roundly. That story reminds us that amidst a life of much gossip, no need to stop the wind, just keep the bell in our heart ringing with a peaceful mind. When our heart is kind, words of the world are just like a breeze gliding past. When our heart is bright, darkness has no place to cling. And when our heart is peaceful, the wind also becomes Dharma music, helping us see the way in every breath. A Buddhist asked, "Sir, in the story of Master Men, I hear very good principles. But in real life, if people speak wrongly or criticize, I still feel uncomfortable, cannot smile like him. How to make my mind peaceful like Master Men's bell amidst the winds of life?" That question is very real and very worthy of respect. Because who in this world has never suffered because of people's words? The speaker may forget immediately, but the listener remembers forever. That is because our mind is still weak, still clinging, still thinking there must be right and wrong, winning and losing. The Buddha taught that a wise person does not hastily believe what is heard, does not hastily get angry at what is seen, but quietly observes like the lake surface reflecting the moon. When our heart is awake, people's words no longer have the power to stir. Master Men in the story was not born peaceful, but learned how to hear without suffering. When people spoke, he heard. When the wind blew, he felt. But his heart kept nothing, like the bell sound that only rings when wind touches and then dissolves into space. The reason that bell sound rang far without breaking was that it was struck with a peaceful mind. A practitioner is the same. If the mind is still angry, the words spoken will hurt. If the mind still clings, the smile will not be true. Only when the mind is at peace are words light, eyes kind, and actions fully in accordance with the way. If a Buddhist wants to keep a peaceful mind like the bell, first learn to stop before reacting. When someone says something incorrect, instead of rushing to react, take a really deep breath. Recite Namo Amitabha Buddha. That single breath is at times saving oneself from the karma of anger, because if we speak in anger, words become knives. If we speak in wakefulness, words become fragrance. Practicing gradually, we will see each time stopping a hot word is a time conquering oneself. One who knows how to stop needs not surpass anyone, but is already the greatest winner. Next, one must understand that gossip is a lesson, not a punishment. Every criticism, every adversity is wind, and that very wind helps us know if our mind is steady yet. If we hear and are sad, the mind is still weak. If we hear and are calm, the mind is strong. Without wine, the bell won't ring. Without gossip, how do we know if our heart is awake? So a wise person does not avoid mind, but uses wind to train the mind. When someone speaks wrongly, think they are helping us practice patience, helping us reflect on ourselves. Thinking like that, the heart naturally feels more gratitude than anger, and finally must practice compassion to transform. When the heart has love, the wind also turns cool. People speaking wrongly about us, actually, they are also suffering because they live in jealousy, misunderstanding, or lack of wisdom. If we get angry, we only add more suffering to a suffering person. But if we generate compassion, our mind is immediately at peace. The Buddha taught to answer resentment with resentment. Resentment never ends. Only compassion can dissolve hatred. When the mind of love arises, bitter words become light, bad people become friends. So to keep a peaceful mind amidst the winds of life, no need to try too hard. Just remember 3 things every day. Stop to not create karma. Understand to not suffer. Love to not resent. Stopping helps the mind brighten. Understanding helps wisdom open. Loving helps the heart find peace. When those 3 things are present together, words spoken by people are just like wind touching a bell, ringing for a moment, then fading. At that time our heart is also like that bell, not broken by the winds of life, but resonating in silence. And that is the bell of someone who knows how to practice, someone keeping a kind heart amidst impermanent waves. Once upon a time, in an ancient temple on a mountain slope, there was a young monk named Faban. He was young but very loved by the villagers for his kindness and dedication. Whoever was sick, he visited. Whoever was miserable, he listened. Every morning he went for alms round, his smile always gentle, his walk leisurely. However, the more loved he was, the more gossip arose. A person in the village, out of jealousy, spread the news that the monk accepted donations and kept them for himself. That rumor spread as fast as the wine, and as usual, people believed the negative more than the truth. Some no longer greeted him, some avoided him, some even threw stones on the path he walked. One afternoon, he sat quietly under the Bodhi tree, watching the wind shake the branches and leaves, chanting in his heart, "Gossip is wind, a kind heart is a mountain. Wind may blow, the mountain still stands." The next day he went to the main hall, bowed to the Buddha 3 times, then went to see the abbot, kneeling to say, Reverend Master, I am misunderstood. I want to explain, but I know the more I speak, the bigger the matter gets. I ask you to teach me what to do." The abbot smiled, poured a cup of tea, placed it in front of him, and said, "Do you hear the wine outside?" Master Phap in reply, "Yes, I do." The sound of wind blew through the temple porch. The monk continued, "If you run out to grab the wine, can you do it?" He shook his head. The monk said, "Then you understand. The wind can only pass. As long as you don't hold it, it dissolves on its own." He bowed his head, tears falling like unloading a heavy burden in his heart. From then on, he still went for alms as usual, still smiled when meeting people speaking ill of him. Someone asked, "Are you not sad?" He replied, "The speaker suffers, so they speak. The listener suffers if they cling. If I see they suffer and I generate compassion, I have resolved to sufferings in one thought." Many people hearing him speak felt their heart settle down. An old woman who previously believed the rumor came to kneel and apologize to him. He helped her up, smiling, "You have no fault. Who in life hasn't believed something wrong?" Realizing it is a blessing, from then on the villagers loved him even more. The person who spread the false news also came to repent. He only said, "Thank you. You helped me see my mind was still not steady enough. Thanks to you, I learned a truly deep lesson about patience and compassion." That person bowed their head and wept. Many years later, when the abbot passed away, the villagers invited Master Phap to become the abbot. On the day of accepting the position, he only said one sentence, "The winds of life will blow, but if our mind is a mountain, that wind only cools us." Since then, in the temple every morning there has been a bell sound chiming in harmony with the wind blowing through the bamboo forest, making anyone who hears it feel at peace. Some say the wind at Phap Temple is not like wind elsewhere because it carries the sound of a kind heart. That story was later repeated by many Buddhists as a reminder to themselves that in life one cannot avoid the winds of life, but one can learn how to be a mountain. What others say we cannot control, but keeping the mind at peace, keeping the heart kind, keeping the smile, that is what we can do. Wind blows leaves away, but the mountain still stands. Gossip comes, the heart wavers, but the practitioner knows to stop. And when we learn like Master Phap, living in the world but still kind, amidst waves but still peaceful, then right in this breath we have taken a step very close to nirvana. A Buddhist asked, "Sir, in the story of Master Phap, I very much admire his calmness and kind heart. What if I were in that situation? I surely couldn't bear it. When misunderstood, accused falsely, I feel very frustrated. I want to speak clearly, want to prove I am clean. Is that me still clinging? And how can I practice a mind like Master Phap?" This question is very sincere and also very close to the human heart, because everyone carries within a fear of being misunderstood, being judged wrongly. And that pain sometimes exceeds even a scolding. But the Buddha taught that whoever understands impermanence will no longer be made to suffer by words. People's words are like wind. They come and go, but we ourselves hold on, making that wind a storm in the heart. What needs fixing is not people's mouths, but our own minds. When the mind does not hold, no one can make us suffer. Master Phap did not choose to justify, not because of fear that he was silent, but because he understood that explaining when people are not yet enlightened is useless. People listening with an angry mind Even if we speak correctly, they won't believe. People listening with an awake mind, even if we haven't spoken, they understand. So a wise person does not compete for winning or losing in words, but proves by way of living. The truth may be obscured for a time, but time never betrays a sincere heart. Like water, even if stirred up, left alone for a while, sediment will settle, clarity will appear. Buddhists are the same, just keep the heart straight, keep the mind bright. Words of the world naturally settle down. To be like that, first, one must practice seeing people's words as lessons, not burdens. When spoken of wrongly, instead of asking why they say that about me, ask why I suffer because of those words. If the mind is still moved, it means I cling to the ego. I want to be right. That wanting to be right is the cause of our suffering. One who understands the way doesn't try to be right, only tries to be at peace. Because when we are truly at peace, we no longer need to prove, for truth has its own power. Any Buddhist who has experienced being falsely accused yet kept a calm heart has walked a very long step on the path of practice. Next, learn to be silent in clarity. Silence is not admitting defeat, but keeping the mind from creating more karma. Silence is the shield of a person with wisdom. When misunderstood, if we are hot, words spoken will create more suffering for both. But if we are silent, just reciting a Buddha's name in the heart, the breath will return, the mind will quiet, wisdom will brighten. When wisdom is bright, we know how to behave correctly. Sometimes just a smile, a greeting, a kind look, the person opposite already feels ashamed. Silent but with compassion, that is the loudest voice of a practitioner. And finally, practice self-love. When seeing people speak wrongly of us, look at them with eyes of love. They are not bad, they just don't know yet. The person speaking evil words is a suffering person. The jealous person is a lacking person. If we generate anger, we fall into the same suffering. But if we generate compassion, we stand higher, not to despise people, but to shade them with kindness. The Buddha taught that if someone curses us, and we do not get angry, that person is just cursing the wind. When the heart has compassion, all gossip dissolves. To have a mind like Master Phapan, Buddhists do not try to find a way to make others quiet, but learn how to make your own heart silent. When the heart is silent, wind turns cool, words turn light, people turn kind. A person keeping a kind heart amidst many words contrary to their will is the one practicing the way. Master Phapan is no different from us, only different in that he dared to stand still before the wind. If Buddhists also dare once to stand still like that, not reacting, not resenting, just breathing deeply, smiling, reciting Namo Amitabha Buddha, then right in that moment, the kind heart in the Buddhist has arisen, and the wind of life, no matter how hard it blows, cannot shake it. And that is the happiness of someone who truly knows how to practice serene in the world, kind in the wind, bright in the night. The story of the speck of dust on the hand. Once upon a time, in a small temple in a valley, there was an old monk named Thien Dao. He lived simply, plainly, all day, only chanting sutras, sweeping the yard, and tending the garden behind the temple. The villagers all admired him, often bringing flowers and fruits to offer. One day, a stranger came to the village. Hearing people praise the teacher, jealousy arose in his heart. He said, "A monk living hidden in the mountains, What is so holy? Surely just faking practice to get respect. From then on, he spread the news that Master Thien Da hid gold in the temple, causing many to suspect. A group of young men, curious, dragged each other up to the temple, saying insolent words, even searching around the altar. Master Thien Da just stood watching, eyes gentle, not a word of blame. When they left, the teacher's young disciple angrily asked, "Why didn't you say anything? They insulted you like that." The teacher smiled and replied, "Do you see the speck of dust on the hand?" The disciple looked down, nodded. The teacher gently blows a breath, dust flies with the wind. People's words are also like dust. If you don't hold them, they will fly away on their own. From that day, that disciple began to observe the teacher more. Whenever people said something hard to hear, the teacher was still silent, just smiling. Once a villager, misunderstanding a matter of donation, came to scold the teacher in the middle of the temple yard. The teacher just clasped his hands and said, "Thank you for reminding me. I will review myself." The other person, angrier, asked, "Are you faking kindness?" The teacher replied, "I truly thank you, because if I am not wrong, your words cannot make me suffer. And if I am wrong, your words help me correct." That saying made the other person stand silent, bow their head, and turn away. Later, knowing the rumor was false, that person came to apologize. The teacher just said there is nothing to apologize for, because wind carries no sin when blowing. Only the mind knows whether to cling or not. Years passed. The people in the region gradually understood. They came to ask the teacher to preach the Dharma. The teacher just said practicing is not hard, only hard at how to make the mind not keep the dust speck. The person scolding us is also a condition. The person praising us is also a condition. Conditions come, we see. Conditions pass, we let go. When not keeping, the heart naturally clears. Then the teacher told them a story. There was a person catching rainwater with a small cup. Water filled it in a moment and overflowed. But a person using a large lake to catch it, no amount of rainwater would fill it. The human mind is the same. If narrow, just one criticism makes it overflow with anger. If wide, 1,000 words of gossip do not fill it with suffering. Later, whenever the wind rose, leaves in the temple garden fell scattered. The disciple remembered the teacher's words years ago. Once he asked, "Sir, why does the wind keep blowing?" The teacher replied, "Because life is still life. As long as your heart is at peace, wind is also the way." Saying that, the teacher looked down at his hand where a few specks of dust still clung lightly, then blew softly, smiling. "See? Every speck of dust is light. Only when you grasp it does it feel heavy." That sentence later became a teaching the villagers knew by heart and passed on. Do not grasp the words of the world, because words of the world are like dust. If you can let go, your heart will be light. Buddhists hearing this story can realize that we cannot make the world stop speaking, but we can make the heart stop keeping. When the mind still clings, light words become heavy. When the mind has let go, a big storm becomes a gentle breeze. One who knows how to practice is not someone living amidst quietness, but someone keeping quiet amidst noise. The wind of life is not scary, only fear our heart is not wide enough for the wind to pass without sweeping us away. So practice like Master Thien Da, seeing old gossip as dust gently passing by and smiling in silence, because right in that silence the way appears clear. clearly like the moon appearing when clouds disperse. A Buddhist asked, "Sir, in the story Master Thien Tao taught dust as people's words I hear and understand, but in reality it is hard to do. When someone speaks wrongly, my heart is still angry, still sad. I know I must let go, but can't let go. So how to truly let go people's words like dust on the hand?" That question is very sincere, because most of us understand that people's words are just like wind, like dust. But the difficulty is the mind still clings, still holds, still wants others to understand us, love us, speak good things about us. That very desire is the rope binding the heart from peace. The Buddha taught no one binds a person with a non-clinging mind, meaning when the mind can let go, no matter what anyone says, we remain light as clouds. Master Thien Tao in the story was not born naturally serene, but was someone who had been hurt, had suffered because of people's words, until he saw that keeping those words in the heart was no different from hugging a burning coal. The more you hug the coal, the more your hands burn. The more you keep words, the more the heart hurts. One day, seeing the dust on the hand, the teacher suddenly understood life says what it says. We cannot forbid, but keeping or not is our right. From then on, the teacher chose the way of blowing gently, which means letting go. Buddhists can also practice like that. Whenever hearing words contrary to your will, do not react immediately. Take a really deep breath, smile, and think those words are dust. I do not keep them. That single thought, if repeated many times, will become a habit. Gradually, our mind will know how to let go naturally, no longer needing to try. Letting go does not mean forgetting everything, but seeing clearly yet not letting the mind stick to it. Like watching clouds drift. We know clouds, but do not run after clouds. The speaker may not understand us, but we understand them because they are also suffering. The person speaking evil is actually weak. They speak to release the suffering in their hearts. If we generate anger, we accept that suffering into ourselves. If we generate compassion, we return peace to them. Letting go is choosing love instead of anger, choosing understanding instead of blaming, choosing silence instead of competing. When choosing like that, the mind immediately finds peace. Buddhists wanting to learn to let go truly must practice seeing people's words as just conditions, not fixed karma. Conditions come, we see. Conditions pass, we let go. When we cling to people's words, we create new karma because anger arises, resentment arises. We let go, old karma dissolves. The Buddha once taught a wise person is like empty space. People's words are like dust. Dust cannot cling to empty space. Our mind is inherently like empty space. Only because we shrink it does dust cling. Open the heart. Everything becomes light. The more clinging, the more suffering. The more understanding, the more peace, the more letting go, the brighter. Letting go is possible, not thanks to strength, but thanks to wisdom. Whenever hearing something contrary to your will, ask yourself, do I want peace or do I want to be right? If wanting to be right, we will argue. If wanting peace, we will smile. The person choosing to be right may defeat others, but the person choosing peace will conquer themselves, and the one conquering themselves is truly the practitioner. Master Thien Tao chose not to argue, not to resent, not to keep, because the teacher understood that only a kind heart keeps true peace. But if keeping wanting to prove, we will forever be a leaf in the wind, never having a day standing still. Any Buddhist hearing this who still feels a little sad, a little angry at someone in their heart, please breathe gently, smile looking at your hands. Imagine there is a small speck of dust, then blow gently right in that moment. If the mind quiets for a beat, that is the moment the way is revealing itself, because letting go is not far away, not in the temple, not in scriptures, but right in our breath. And each time we choose kindness instead of anger, choose love instead of blame, choose silence instead of winning and losing. When we can do that, even if the world speaks 1,000 words, the mind remains steady, the heart remains at peace, and the Buddha still smiles within our own mind. After all the stories and teachings have passed, the path the Buddha taught is still wrapped up in one word, mind. If the mind moves, a small word becomes a storm. If the mind is awake, 1,000 fierce waves turn into a gentle breeze. Gossip is inevitable in this life, because wherever there are people, there is praise, blame, love, hate, gain, loss. But a practitioner does not need to find a way to block the mind, but needs to learn how to make their heart steady as a mountain. A wise person does not run after the sounds of life, but listens silently to understand the voice of the heart. One who understands the way does not need to prove right or wrong, only needs to keep a kind heart, keep a bright mind, keep a smile, because ultimately all words of the world dissolve. Only our mind is where we truly live. The Buddha taught the greatest enemy of a human life is one's own angry mind, and the greatest friend is compassion. When the heart is kind, we look at anyone and see them as lovable. When the heart is bright, we see bad things also have places to learn from. When the heart is peaceful, we no longer fear loss, fear being wrong, fear what others think. At that time, we walk in the world as if walking in spring. Everywhere is a place of practice. Practice is not hiding from life, but understanding life, not making life quiet, but making the heart not move amidst life. A true practitioner is not someone not hit by waves, but someone who knows how to smile when waves come. In every story, from Mrs. Lean, Novice Men, Master Fappen to Master Thien Da, all teach us the same thing. The winds of life will never stop, but the human heart can be at peace. Wind only makes leaves fly, it cannot topple the mountain. People's words are just sound. They cannot hurt the mind if we do not keep them. Only when we know how to let go of things not needed to be kept, stop reacting when the heart is touched, and let it be when people of the world do not yet understand. Is the mind truly free? One who lives like that, wherever they are, is in the way. Buddhists should remember no one can make us suffer if our heart does not allow it. Suffering only comes when we still want, still cling, still demand. But if we just live kindly, live truthfully, live peacefully, everything will naturally be favorable, because the way does not lie in a far place, but right in every calm breath and every letting go smile. Whenever hearing someone say something contrary to your will, smile. Take a deep breath, exhale lightly, and remember that gossip is wind, a kind heart is a mountain. The mountain does not fear the wine, but makes the wine clearer. If keeping a kind heart, we will see life soften. People who once made us angry now become people helping us practice. Words that once hurt us now become Dharma lessons teaching us patience. Every day we just need to live truly, think wholesomely, speak kindly, act correctly. We have taken a step closer to peace. Because a practitioner does not need to pray for distant things, just needs to know how to stop. know how to let go, know how to smile, to be walking on the path of enlightenment. So I would like to send to all Buddhists a small word. Finally, live kindly, even if life misunderstands. Live truthfully, even if people suspect. Live peacefully, even if the surroundings are noisy, because that very kindness, that truthfulness, that peace will be the door opening to true tranquility. Hem.